The House Select Committee on Benghazi preparing to issue more requests now for archived emails belonging to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton after finding that she used at least 2 private accounts, not her government-issued email while in office. The Associated Press reporting one account was linked to an internet provider registered to Clinton's New York home. Meantime, House Oversight Committee Chair Jason Chaffetz admitting he uses an official government account and a private account, but that he's not required to follow the Federal Record Act. South Carolina Congressman Gowdy is heading up the investigation into the Clinton emails, and he joins me now. Congressman, let's start with when you first became aware that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was using a private email account and not a government one.
August of 2014, so late last summer, the committee discovered that she was using, at least episodically, a private email account. We did not learn until last week that that was the only thing she was using. There is no official State Department email account for Secretary Clinton.
So how does that affect the Benghazi Select Committee?
Oh, in myriad ways. We have been charged, Gretchen, with finding out everything that happened before, during, and after Benghazi, which necessarily means that we have to access whatever documents and emails the Secretary may have. So traditionally, you would go to the State Department as the keeper of the record and say, give me all the emails responsive to these search terms. Well, you can ask the State Department from now until the Lord comes back. They don't have them. She has them. So now you are in the position of Secretary Clinton being the keeper of her own records.
Well, what about the 55,000 emails that supposedly she did hand over in December?
And what assurance and guarantee do you have that that production was complete?
And how would you answer that question? How are you going to be able to find out that everything that you need to see, and I guess by law that you can see, that you're going to?
Well, there's only one way to do it, or I guess there are 2 ways, but one way is to get everything from her. Get everything from her and have a neutral, independent arbiter. I'm not interested in emails that have nothing to do with Benghazi. I could care less about that. But by the same token, there's a reason that we don't let people judge themselves, and you don't let people decide what's relevant and what's not. If you were doing a story on her tenure at the State Department, I mean, how absurd would it be for her to be able to go through her documents and emails and say, well, Gretchen, I'll give you this, but not that. That's why we have Records Acts and the Code of Federal Regulation, and that's why the President said don't use personal email.
Right. So what about subpoena power? Will you do that?
We're going to use every legal recourse at our disposal to make sure that we have all the documents.
All right. Now, just a quick mention, because we mentioned at the top that Jason Chaffetz, another congressman, on his private business card or his public one, he has a private email. You also have a private email account. If you conduct business on that, Congressman, what do you do?
Well, I think almost all Americans have work in private email accounts, and almost all Americans episodically will do one or the other on the other. I will say this about Congressman Chaffetz. The Federal Records Act doesn't apply to Congressman Chaffetz, and the reason that he would have a separate email account, just like me and every other member of Congress, including Mr. Cummings, it's against the law for us to do political or campaign work on our official account.
Right.
So if you're in Congress, you don't have a choice but to have 2 separate accounts.
Okay, so it's different, and you're not held to the same standards as people like Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. Final question. Who is making sure that she is compliant in handing over all the emails?
Well, it's going to fall, with respect to Benghazi, it's going to fall on me. With respect to other issues, it's going to fall on that committee chairman. But you put your finger on why we don't allow Eric Holder to take his documents home with him when he leaves to the Department of Justice. We have an archivist. We have a national archive. We have a Federal Records Act, a Presidential Records Act. The President himself said, don't use private email. This is why. These records belong to you, Gretchen. They belong to your viewers, not just 7 House Republicans. These are public records, and we should be able to access them.
This story, I have a feeling, is not going away anytime soon. Congressman Gowdy, in charge of the Benghazi Select Committee, thanks for your time today.